Let's get started, fellas. All right, so it was me that kept saying UFC London was going to be a banger. So blame me for the fact that it was not that. But you can't throw Sean Brady into that mix. He handled his business. He got the finish. Fourth round sub for the Philly native. Let's react. We go to the MMA media titan to lead us off. Mike, what was your reaction to this main event in London?
Impressed for sure. Like you said, it was a long night, the longest UFC card of the year so far, almost 3 hours of fight time. But if you're a London fan, I'm sure that's not the ending you wanted, especially like kind of a slow fight a little bit, but utter dominance from Sean Brady. Like, how could you be more impressed with this guy? Really, like, held his own fine on the feet. And then when it got to the ground, it was just levels and levels above. It goes in there, the ultimate feather in his cap, being the first person to ever finish Leon Edwards in MMA. A lot of great fighters have competed against this guy, not even being able to get that close to a finish. So that's a huge way for Brady to win enemy territory, relatively short notice. Like, he ticked every single box you could ask for him in the spot. So he is absolutely an elite welterweight now. Only big things for him. What more can you ask for as a fighter to go in there in the number one ranked contender's hometown, essentially his backyard, and finish the job? A+ work from Sean Brady all around.
Yeah, it was impressive for sure, man. He was toying with him on the ground. Danny Segura, what was your reaction, man?
Yeah, it was an amazing performance, and I somewhat expected this. I really thought this was going to be his breakout performance, and that's exactly what happened. Like, Sean Brady, if you had any doubts about the guy, because yeah, he got finished by Bilal, and if you had any thoughts about the guy, like any doubts about the guy, like this has to be one of those performances where it really restructures everything you think about him. Like, this guy's a legit title contender, and don't be surprised if he becomes champion in the near future. Like, he's that good. The way he dominated Leon Edwards was just incredible to watch, and the guy is just very, very skilled and a huge problem at 170 pounds.
It goes, you know how oftentimes they say, well, sometimes you got to watch it with the volume down. We actually watched it with the volume down, so we weren't influenced by a crowd or, announcers or anything like that. I don't know if you saw it a second time with the volume up, but what were your thoughts? Because this one at least had some a finish. There was 4 finishes on the card, all submissions. So I like when the main event finishes with a finish. But again, your thoughts on the former champ getting submitted by the Philly native?
I thought it was an amazing performance. I mean, sometimes you get worried coming in on a Monday that people are going to talk about, what it was that Leon Edwards didn't bring to the table that night. And I didn't want what Sean Brady did to get lost under the shuffle, because that kid really just put everything together. I think it was Mike that said A+. Like, I agree with him, dude. Every aspect of that fight, he was in control. He was kind of like an anaconda, just playing with his food. And when he finally had his chance, he took it. Super, super cool performance from the guy. And considering the circumstances, I think everybody dreams of that, right? Going into enemy territory, going in there and putting on a performance like that. I think he not only got the win, but kind of sent a message to the rest of the division and to the champ. Even though he has a loss to him, these are the type of performances that I think help us forget about that.
And the lead up, Sean, I thought did good with that, pointing out how Leon was harping on the past. And then in the end, didn't he say he smoked them? Like, seriously, like, This guy's a G, man, and he's 18-1, but it's a crowded division. I want to ask you guys, Danny, we'll go to you. What does the UFC do? Sometimes we wonder, can you run interference on the number one contender, who at this point is Shavkat Rakhmonov, waiting for the winner of Bilal Muhammad versus Jack Della Maddalena, right? Did he run interference on Shavkat in your eyes?
That's such a tough question. I feel like right now it might feel like maybe is the answer, because we're obviously fresh off the win. It was extremely impressive, but I feel like once the dust settles, I feel like the crowd favorite still remains Shavkat. And I think that's the person that people want to see fight for the belt next, obviously after JDM gets a shot at Bilal. But we're speaking about like who had the most like impressive recent performance. Like, Shavkat like restructured in a way how I said Brady kind of restructured like a lot of like people's opinions on him. I feel like Shavkat did as well, but maybe not on the best terms. Like, yeah, he did get a win, but Ian Gary kind of made him look human. Whereas with this performance, like, he just ran through Leon Edwards. So this is a very tough question. I think it's all going to come down to availability. as most things. If Shavkat is not ready, I do think they're gonna go to him first. But if his injury, whatever he underwent that took him out of the fight with Bilal, if that's not ready, or if he can't fight, or if the dates don't align for him, I think the next person in a very crowded welterweight division will be Brady. So I think they'll go to Sean Brady to see what's up. But don't be surprised. I wouldn't be surprised if Brady ends up fighting for the belt next.
You agree, Mike? You like the pecking order? Della Maddalena, Rakhmonov, and then now Sean Brady solidified next after that?
Yeah, I think that makes sense, especially given if Bilal Muhammad beats Jack Della Maddalena. He's been very clear. He wants to be an active champion. He wants to get all these new, fresh names on his resume and stuff. I know Sean Brady doesn't represent that. He already beat him. But I do think Bilal, if he continues to be champion, is going to be that guy saying, I will fight the number one contender regardless of who it is under the circumstances. So I think he's got a good shot here. I think the maybe circumstance that could mess up this entire welterweight division right now is potentially Islam Makhachev. Like if Jack Della Maddalena beats Bilal Muhammad for the belt, I think that's the fight we're getting. I think we see Islam move up. He doesn't, then, Ilia Topuria can fight whoever for the interim or undisputed lightweight belt. But I do think if Jack wins, the whole welterweight division gets thrown into chaos with Islam maybe coming into the fold. If Bilal wins, I think Sean Brady's path is much more narrow. It's probably going to be maybe one more win for him, but I think we end up getting, Shavkat after that. How can you take that guy's title shot away? He was supposed to get it in December. Bilal pulled out. He fought the next guy the UFC wanted him to. He was willing to fight any opponent. He was injured. He went in there. Like, the guy's still, at the end of the day, I agree with everything Danny said there about the performance kind of taking some of the air out of his tires. He wasn't that guy who's 100% finish rate, blah, blah, blah anymore. That's a little bit absent now, but I still think he deserves the shot. He was there. He fought the replacement guy, and he was going to be the next one here before an injury. So as long as that injury doesn't keep him out beyond when they want to schedule the next fight, I do think it'll be Shavkat, and then Sean Brady will be fighting someone else.
Mike, you just blew my mind, but in a good way, man. But it's true. We got to give Della Maddalena his due. He could possibly win, and if he does, holy cow, I have no problem with Makhachev actually going up. He seems to have kind of cleared things out. There might be one or two heads that you could still say, well, you didn't beat him, or whoever, but damn, that makes things interesting in a very crowded 170. How about you, Goes? Rakhmonov, again, injured, right?
Mhm.
Sometimes you go with the hot hand. Do you think Brady did enough? Because, like I say, he ticked a lot of boxes, and then he kind of had some swag to him.
He did, but it just seems like that's the direction the UFC wants to go. And I feel like it really just comes down to that injury. If he's healthy, I think it's his shot. But this division is just so fire right now that you feel like even if the next guy comes along and puts on a decent enough performance, we're probably going to be saying the same thing about him. I mean, it's a good time for the welterweight division.
Yeah, if Carlos Prates goes out there and starts as Jeff Neal or something, people are going to be pushing him hard.
Fighting nerds, they got some momentum for sure. And we can't say it because we're professionals here, or at least these three guys are. But Joseph Boza said Sean made Leon his bitch. Guys, would you kind of agree with that? Or, I think we can't say it, but would you kind of go, yeah, you kind of have something going on here, Joseph Boza? Because it looked like domination to me, again, with the volume down, because I was watching the March Madness, but still, I saw some domination. How about you, Dan? Oh.
Yeah, I mean, in terms of, I wouldn't use that language, obviously, because it's not professional, but in terms of like what that term means, like it usually just means extreme dominance, right? And that's exactly what we saw. And you also have to add the fact that it almost felt like Leon Edwards was looking past him the entire time, almost as he felt that a rematch with Bilal Muhammad was inevitable, and then this was an easy fight, when this was a guy that had a lot of the tools that that Bilal possessed that, took away the title from him. So, yeah, like once everything happened, the result, how the media day went, all that, yeah, it does kind of look that way, if you want to put it on, I guess, like ordinary terms.
Mike, you wanted to chime in?
I was just going to say, you can put it this way and let the numbers answer the question for you. Coming into this fight, Leon Edwards had completed 66 rounds of fighting in the UFC. Not once did he land 0 strikes. He landed 0 strikes in 2 different rounds in this fight against Sean Brady. So yeah, that says it all for you.
Also, can we talk about the takedown? What the hell, Leon? Like, This has to be up there with like some of the worst mistakes ever made in a fight.
McGregor
Like
on Diaz.
Thiago Alves shooting on Martin Kampman with a few seconds remaining when Australia or wherever they fought. This has to be one of the worst mistakes in UFC history.
Yeah, I was saying McGregor shot in on Diaz. You could tell he didn't like what was happening here, and he made a big mistake as well in the first fight. Yeah, that was you could just tell, man, Edwards was tuned out. He always has that look, but this time the look was matching the inactivity, like Mike pointed out. He just wasn't doing anything. What's next for Edwards, Mike? Is he done as a contender, or the former champs get a little bit more latitude?
He definitely gets more latitude, but just look at the road. It took him 10-fight unbeaten streak to get a title shot in the first place, and it was kind of like circumstantial because Kamaru Usman, who was champion at the time, had cleaned out the division. So yeah, man, it's rough for Leon to turn in these performances back to back on home soil too. Like, I think he maybe lost a little bit of the fan sentiment from his local fans there too. Like, I don't know if anyone's purchasing the expensive UFC London ticket prices for another Leon Edwards main event in the near future, unless you put something really intriguing together in the fight I suggested for my matchmaker piece. The fight I feel like makes all the sense in the world, and the only fight to make right now. Give us the Jorge Masvidal fight against Leon Edwards. I mean, we thought Masvidal's coming back. I thought maybe he'd be on this Miami card in a few weeks. Didn't end up landing there. I don't know if he's still I know he still had 6 or so fights in his UFC contract when he retired. So I don't think they've let him go or anything, but is he coming back? Is the UFC going to book him? If they are, I mean, is there a better time for this fight? It didn't make sense before because Jorge was on the losing skid. Leon was champion fighting, the highest level of fights. But now, I mean, if you don't take it now, I don't know if there's going to be another opportunity for Edwards versus Masvidal. So please, UFC, do it.
Yeah. And by the way, I still think Edwards beat Sean Brady 10 out of 10 times, but that's just me. I don't know. No, listen. Hey, Leon, don't get pissed at that. You said it. All right. So you opened yourself up for these things.
He said he beats him 9 out of 10 times, and he
said 10 out of 10
and didn't win either.
Yeah, he said 10 out of 10. And then I think he realized even that was silly. And he still was harping on 530. And, like I say, when you say it, then guess what? It's fools like me that bring up old shit.